Okay, thank you so much for having me. My name is Rosmarie, and I'm the founder and the chairperson of the Climate Student Movement. And the Climate Student Movement is about turning anxiety into action. It is easy to feel anxious when knowing we are close to collapsing our planet. For decades, people in power have ignored climate science, leading us to where we are today. In autumn 2017, myself, I had a lot of climate anxiety. It felt like I was in a bubble. Everything felt unreal. I had the question in my head all the time: why are we not doing what it takes to save the future? And at that time, I listened to a seminar with Kevin Anderson. He is a climate leadership professor. And he was in a panel discussion, and he got the question: why are decision makers not doing what it takes? Why are they not listening to climate science? And his answer was that not even climate scientists themselves are leading by example. And research institutions that are producing the climate science are not following climate science. And higher education institutions that are teaching climate science are not practicing what they teach. This gives a very bad signal to decision makers. So in other words, climate science are lacking the necessarily credibility to be followed. And Kevin Anderson, in this panel discussion, he said that he wished that students started a global movement to push higher education institutions to start practicing what they teach. And when I listened to him, I got the inspiration to start Climate Student Movement. And 1 year later, in 2018, I think you can share, in 2018, we learned from IPCC that there is enormous difference between 1.5 and 2 degrees Celsius global warming. And the World Life Fund, they have made a picture to summarize it all. Maybe if you go back some slides, you can see the pictures. There it is. You can Google it and you will find it. And it's really gives a really big, good picture of what it's about, the difference. And also in 2018, if you share a slide, we learned about the tipping points and that if we could cause a cascade of tipping points. And also we learn about something called hothouse Earth state. If you change to the next picture. So because of business as usual, we are on a quick road to a climate change that will basically make the Earth uninhabitable. And in Sweden, during 2018, we had a lot of forest fires, and also the girl Greta Thunberg, she started her climate strike outside of our parliament, and these happenings, I think that was the catalyst that made a climate student grow into a movement all over Sweden. And so what we did in Climate Student Sweden, we met with the national network of managers at higher education institutions that are responsible for their climate impact. And when they understood that their own students had their back, they started to develop a climate framework and to improve their action plans and so on. We also met with the minister, you can change slide now, of higher education, and that resulted in stricter regulations. So all higher education institutions have to reduce, measure, and report their emissions to be in line with the national climate law. And it's not enough for them to produce climate science, they also have to follow it. So we made a real quick change in Sweden during just 1 year. And for 1 year ago, we also founded a climate student internationally. And we have now members in a lot of parts of the world. So you can see the map on the next slide. We have members in Finland, UK, Malta, and Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Singapore, Colombia, and Brazil at the moment. And right now we are also funding a coalition of international student organizations to start a global advocacy campaign, and also in collaboration with the UN organizations and university organizations. And our goal is to get 1,000 higher education institutions to initiate the inclusive dialogues, set science-based targets, and declare climate emergency, implement action plans, and start measuring and reporting, and of course improving on their own emissions and climate impact. And during the campaign, our campaign plan is to start with the recruiting and introducing national campaign coordinators. So there will be students working to launch and run the campaign in their own countries. And we will launch the campaign internationally during pre-COP events this autumn. And we will invite higher education institutions to join a framework, international framework. And we will run an advocacy program during the campaign to train and support the national coordinators to run the campaign in their countries. So thank you so much for having me, and join our Facebook and Instagram. We also have a web page. You can learn more about climate students, and yeah, we will give you more information on how to apply to be a national coordinator and to join our campaign events. So thank you so much for having me.